Today, we are thrilled to be joined by people who joined a couple, and they are going to tell us what attracted them to their couple and why they prefer this relationship dynamic. And we are just so excited to talk to you all today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having
us.
Happy to be here.
So I think we'll just jump into it. Any order, anybody that wants to answer the question. One of the first questions we have is, why were you attracted to your couple?
Who's going to jump first? Casey, you go first.
I can for sure go first. Yeah.
There you go.
I ended up meeting my couple on Bumble. It was a match made on Bumble. And when it comes to my couple, my now husband and wife, they are obviously fantastic people. Like, I think, initially, whenever I matched with them on Bumble, it was definitely a physical attraction. They're both beautiful. Like, I'm not going to beat around it. Like, they're amazing. They're very physically attractive. But when we actually got into, kind of talking about this situation and our relationship, it was definitely something that, one, we all very much aligned on all of our core values. So I think that that's something that's really, really important to talk about whenever you're, getting into any relationship, but specifically this type of relationship. So, we lined up on a lot of things like politics and religion, but also the fact that we all were child-free, like things like that. And, it doesn't hurt the fact that they are both very accomplished. They are, very high achieving. So that was definitely something that drew me to them. But truly, they also had kind of that, obviously, willingness and openness to be adding someone to what was their existing relationship. Now it is our relationship as three people. And they were very willing to kind of open up their space and what they were used to doing into, adding a new person, bringing in a whole different dynamic to kind of what their everyday was. And so, yeah, it worked out really well. But it definitely took a lot of communication. It took a lot of, just everyone being very willing to adapt to this new type of dynamic. So yeah, it was definitely quite a wild ride, but we made it into a place where it was like everything is wonderful. So yeah.
And for whomever doesn't know your story, were you specifically looking to get in a relationship with a couple, or it just happened naturally?
Yeah. So actually, I wouldn't even say, so I came off kind of the heels of a really bad failed polytriad that I had previously. It was a bad end to that relationship. And that was the first one I ever been in. And I was like, I don't necessarily want to put myself out there and like that again. But I will say it was definitely something that, I had gone back to monogamy and tried to date men or women independently. And then, I kind of figured out that like that probably wasn't necessarily my preferred dating mechanism. I actually did find that I was like, okay, I am poly. And when I matched with Rachel and Aaron, my partners on Bumble, it definitely kind of threw me back into it and had me do some soul searching of like, is this a relationship that I actually, that would work for me, that I want to be in? And obviously the answer was yes. It was, I figured out that this type of relationship works really well for me, regardless of my past and that failed relationship that was similar to the one that I'm in now. So it was definitely, I wouldn't say that I was necessarily looking for a couple at the time, but whenever I did come across them, I was like, oh, hey, maybe this is for me. And then it didn't hurt the fact that they were both very open and willing to, give this type of relationship a chance in a way that was very ethical, they had done a lot of research. Everyone was really on board with the entire concept. And I feel like that, like going into it, everyone knowing what was going on, everyone had the same expectations, and, you know, communication, all of that thing. I will say, it was like a cheat code because my wife is a psychologist. So she definitely, who specializes in ethical non-monogamy. So she definitely, you know, had some kind of tools that when we came into it, it was like a cheat code, but it still took a lot of, you know, just generally the willingness and openness of me and my now husband as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Ari, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I was definitely not looking for a couple. And if you don't know my story, it was, my husband is somebody that I used to work with. We were coworkers when we first met, and we went out for drinks for my 21st birthday. And then, you know, one thing led to another, and here we are 5-6 years later, and we're married, and just had my first son together. So the fourth child for him and his wife overall, and then our first all together.
Congratulations on that.
He's adorable. He's now 8 weeks old.
Yay.
But I was not looking for a couple. Honestly, I was just hanging out with my friend. And then after that night, we realized, oh, this is something you can do. And then I wasn't thinking about making it a permanent thing. Lo and behold, they had just started discussing it after that night because, you know, they're married. They've been married for like 13 years at that point or something like that. So they'd been married for a while at that point, and they started discussing what the thoughts on actually introducing me as a more permanent part of the relationship would be. Where I had no idea, and I had zero expectations of anything really continuing. But I was so happy that it did. And then once they kind of started broaching the subject of, do you want to make this more permanent? I was like, yes, I do. Because I love spending time with both of them. And here we are, you know, we've been married for 4 years now.
So what is it that attracted you to them as a couple?
I mean, they both have their unique qualities about them. And together they were already so great together. I had 3 children already when I met them, and they had raised really good children. I would not call myself a child kind of person, but they had the kind of children that I was like, oh, I love these children. So, you know, just their dynamic and how much love they had for each other and the respect that they have, it was just such a good relationship that I could see myself wanting to be part of that. And then, you know, aside from that, they each have their personal quirks that are, you know, really funny and charismatic, and he's one of the sweetest persons I've ever met. So, you know, they each have their individual qualities, and just together it worked really well for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. I'm thinking like when you see a couple, it's like a glimpse into your future in a relationship with them. Like, we could be like that. Who wants to go next? Kay, Julian? Okay, go ahead.
So our story is a little bit different. We were all best friends to start. So I was always usually involved in the stuff that they were doing. We always hung out as a 3. So most of the time I was able to connect with them as people, as best friends, and just see like how we treated each other. And we always were just kind of in a trio. Everyone knew us as 3 already. So when we started to develop feelings, it just came on really natural. But I think I would say that we were just very attracted to each other as individuals. Right off the bat, just being best friends, we had that dynamic going already. But yeah, it just kind of like organically went into
right. So it's like it's different because like you were just friends, and all of a sudden you wanted more. It wasn't something that you didn't
come in the relationship as a possible romantic partner. It was
Right.
completely
Yeah,
different from the beginning.
we didn't really have any inkling that this would have came about. It just kind of formed on its own. But yeah.
You were the maid of honor in their wedding, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We actually have we just did an episode with Love Don't Judge, and it's actually called We Fell in Love with Our Maid of Honor. So that just comes
great.
tomorrow, but it kind of just talks about like how we fell in love and the whole story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You gotta send the link.
Love it.
We have to watch it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we would love that.
So what was it like at some point when you were thinking about having this 3-person relationship? Obviously you've been a witness to the relationship before you. What was it that attracted you, that made you feel hopeful for the future?
Yeah, I think just kind of being the maid of honor and being their best friend.
Like being a witness to their love.
Yeah, like being the best friend to begin with, like being the outsider that just kind of was watching their relationship. Like I always thought to myself, like I can't wait to find something like that someday. And I just always like admired their love. And I think towards the end I realized like I just want to be a part of the love. So that kind of shift was interesting to see for me, that I was like, oh, I want to be a part of their relationship.
Instead of finding your own.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm already there.
Right.
I
That's
love it.
cool. Yes.
Julian, would you like to tell us how you joined your couple? Was it intentional? Was it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like where Kay is on this. So initially, I met David first on Scruff, one of the gay dating apps. And at that point, I wasn't looking for any relationship whatsoever. I was just like, hey, I'm just going to go on here, find some interesting people to hang out with and meet, because like I really enjoyed being single. Like I didn't have no need. I didn't feel lonely. So I was like, I'm just going to meet some cool people, see what happens. So I met David and we just hung out. He told me, he's like, oh, I have a husband. I was like, that's cool, because, it's fine, because I'm not looking for a relationship. So you could be married to whoever you want. And then we hung out, but he like really like understood me, and nobody else, like I never felt seen by anybody else before. And, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And, he felt the same way about me. And, it was like a really natural thing. We just first hung out as friends, and then we like got to get to know each other even more. And then I got to know Brandon more too. And it just like evolved naturally.
And what was it that attracted you to them as a couple?
So, well, when I first like started considering being in a relationship with them, they kind of like checked all the boxes for the reasons why I didn't want to be with somebody. Like, for first of all, they were older, so less likely to, want drama. They know what they want in life. They were well into their careers. They were stable people. And I said, I don't think I'll ever have an opportunity to like be with somebody like this before. So it's like definitely worth at least taking the plunge, to see what happens.
Yeah. I hear a lot of common things, maturity of the individual, maturity of the relationship, successful people that have their shit together. I think that's very attractive, no matter who you are. So I see it. And you see something like that as a couple like that, and you think, that could be me. Yeah. Why not?
And another common thread is that they have a very strong relationship, where you're looking as an outsider, seeing the love that they have for each other and the relationship that they have, and going like, wow, I want to be a part of that. Like, not just like Kay was saying, not just, oh, I hope I have something like that someday, but I want to be a part of what you guys have. That's beautiful.
It's actually funny, you guys. I heard it, I think, with everyone, but that was something that I actually said in our union ceremony vows. I kind of came at it as like a joke more than anything, but it does ring true, where, at some point I said something along the lines of like, I was excited to join Rachel and Aaron on this journey. And I knew that they'd been together for 16 years before I even came to the picture. So I knew that they were, already like into commitment and longevity. So it's
Right.
definitely like it's kind of, you know, a funny thing to think about, where you're like, oh yeah, no, they actually already like have their thing going.
Yep.
And I know that they have a strong, stable relationship. And so, you know, why
We've
wouldn't
got the
our
track
relationship-
record.
Yeah.
That's what I'm right? Like 100%. So
Yeah, that's one of the things that Josh told me when we first started dating. Like, hey, like, look at me. I have experience. I know how to be in a relationship. Look at this.
see,
Track record of success.
That's true.
100%.
What is one way that makes it better for you to be in a relationship with two people than with just one person? Who wants to go? Casey, let's go first. Let's do it in the same order.
Yeah, absolutely. I
why,
think that
why two is better than one?
why is two better than one? So we always talk about how having a 3-person relationship, it frankly just makes you a better person. So, and stay with me here, but I feel like whenever it's a one-to-one monogamous relationship, in a lot of cases when there's conflict or there's disagreement or anything like that, or just anything really, it's not even conflict, just like, you know, wanting more for yourself, you always have like one perspective and one perspective. That's a one and one, you know, against each other essentially. And then when you add that third person, it almost is like an accountability that, you know, if you have two partners that are succeeding, if you have two partners who want this, or you have two partners who agree on something that you disagree with, and especially, like I said, in those conflict moments, we call it the asshole test, specifically in conflict moments where it's like, oh, like, yeah, whenever you're the person who you're in a disagreement and the other two people are like, no, like, it's actually you being the asshole. Like, that is, you're humble pie and you're like, oh, damn, like, I actually am the asshole. But it also just like extends to kind of the greater everything. So, you know, when you're talking about like professional aspirations, or where do you want to live? How much money do you want to make? Like, what do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? When you have two people who are there and holding you accountable and like really pushing you to reach for that higher state, I do think, and whether it's therapy, whether it's anything, I do think that also, like, again, just helps me be a better person. And, you know, we also like our little tagline for our relationship is always a party, never a crowd. It is like you always have someone to go and do something with you. If someone's feeling down or someone's sick or whatever, like, you always have kind of the other person that you can rely on and lean on. So it's definitely something that, you know, you have just kind of a well-rounded relationship. And so for me, it was kind of a no-brainer when it came to two versus one, because it was like, well, why not more love, more fun, more, you know, accountability? Just it's all together for me and my partners, just more goodness.
More.
So
Yeah. Excellent point, because a lot of people that are against polyamory or a 3-people relationship, they always think, oh, it's less love, less time, less all of that. It's actually more. Yeah. Ari, why is 2 better than 1?
I mean, so as far as, aside from the obvious of financially, it's easier to give 2 or 3 income instead of,
Right.
say that
That's an excellent point.
I've currently been noticing is 3 parents as far as raising, because, like I said, I mean, I just had a baby 8 weeks ago, and instead of only having, you know, 2 hands to deal with anything that's going on, we have a third set of hands. I mean, Sarah, she's raised 3 beautiful kids all by herself. I mean, Fred was there too, of course, but she has done all of the child raising as a stay-at-home mom. And so being able to have that to, you know, get assistance in any and everything that I have needed help with, it's really made a huge difference for me. It's made it a lot easier for me, and I don't have to worry about quite as many, every little thing, you know, why is he breathing like that? Oh, that's
Yeah,
but
that's a good point.
things. It's just nice to have that extra set of hands and the extra perspective.
Yeah, I've never had a baby, but I hear about the panic when you're just your first kid and you don't know what you're doing. And it's so good to have somebody that already had some.
I think it's really interesting too, because even throughout the whole time, people were like, "Oh, is there anything that you feel like you need to prepare more with?" And I'm like, I don't think so. I really felt like I was pretty prepared going into it, even though I knew absolutely nothing, because I knew that I had the two of them already had gone through everything that I was about to. So
that's nice. So your stress level was way less than it would have been.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really good. I love it. Kay, how about you? Why is two better than one?
Kind of.
Man, sneaky.
That was planned. I just got ambushed. Kind of going off of what Ari said, I was just gonna say, like, we don't have half the responsibility I'm sure you have, but we're raising a puppy right now. And we always make the joke that, like, thank God we have three of us, because he has like bathroom trips and just like everything under the sun, and we're like, thank God there's three of us, because we wouldn't be able to do this alone. But kind of same as you guys said, like, we have three incomes, so that's always great. We similar to having like family conversations, or sometimes disagreements. It's great to have that third person just kind of, not necessarily moderating, but just being there to be like a third voice. We always say, thank God there's three of us for cleaning the house. But I just think, like you guys said, there's just more hands, more voices in the conversation, more love, and I just think we.
This is something about the having a third person, a second person, like telling you if you are doing something wrong. It reminds me, I don't know if you guys ever watched Justified. Raylan Givens or whatever his name is, he has this saying, he's like this macho man, like super like, and he says, if you meet one person in the morning and they call you an asshole, they're the asshole. If you meet a second person and they call you an asshole, maybe you're the asshole. So that's exactly the throuple relationship right there for me. Yep.
100%. Well, and Kay, have you heard, and I only say because, so you've heard the term DINK, dual income, no kids.
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
you toss in TINK, triple income, no kids. And then recently I heard this one, which is TINKWAD, triple income, no kids with a dog. WAD. TINKWADs. Just saying.
Perfect.
I hope it helps with your puppy raising.
That's great. That's our new family.
For sure a thing.
That's funny.
So, guys, we know a lot of couples that are desperately looking to be in a throuple. Like, they want to be in a throuple, and it feels like it's really, really, really hard. And why do you guys think it's so hard for a couple to find a person to join them? Casey.
So this is kind of funny because I feel like, everyone talks about like unicorns or dragons, like finding that special third person to join your relationship. And this is like, they're mythical and they don't exist and whatever. Obviously, like, we're all here. We do exist. But I think more than anything, when it comes to couples who are looking for a triad or throuple relationship, I 100% just say start with education. Really get clear and get secure on your relationship, what you're looking for, your boundaries, like really, and then also like preparing yourself for, I'm going to have to, this relationship that I have with this one other person right now, it's going to change and it is going to evolve. And, it might work out, it might not work out, who knows? But like, you have to really be able to understand that you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to evolve your current relationship to fit in a third person. And that it sounds like, none of us, I'm sure here, we're coming into it being like, well, I'm going to break up a relationship. And I feel like that's what a lot of people think that thirds are trying to do. Thirds.
Mhm.
But I think that so much of it is just being open and willing to educate yourself on this and making sure that, you are ready and you understand that just because someone is coming into an existing, quote unquote, existing relationship, that doesn't mean that it has to continue on with the relationship that you have with your now significant other. When you're bringing in a new person into a relationship, regardless, it's not going to be that same relationship. It is going to evolve. It is going to change. You have to, kind of be okay with and open to that. And it can come down to, regardless of anything that's like, the big changes, like moving in with someone or whatever, like it can definitely come down to the very small changes that you have to be ready for. What we joke that like one of our earliest like fights, quote unquote, was that, Rachel, my wife, was like questioning why I was leaving the deodorant on the counter. And I was like,
That's the real shit right there.
That
Do it again.
honestly,
One more time, I swear to God. Leave it on the couch, see what happens.
That's what I'm saying though. It's so funny because like it was like it got to this point where like she kept seeing the deodorant on the counter and was like, well, why is the deodorant on the counter?
Yeah.
Like I keep putting it away, and I was like, I literally have always kept my deodorant on
That's
the
what
counter.
I keep it. You have a problem with that?
That really though, and it's like, but it is those little changes that like and especially when you've been doing specific things in a specific way with one specific person for so long, and then you have a third person come in and kind of disrupt that. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't put the deodorant in a drawer. Now I do. But like, at the time, it was like
it's the little things,
I was
right?
like,
It's the little things that drive us
this
so
was an
crazy.
issue.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
But it is like that. You have to kind of shift your mindset to be like, okay, like there's a whole new person, there's a whole new dynamic in this, and I can't like we have to communicate about everything because like otherwise you get caught up on those things that are minute, that are so insignificant.
Yep.
But truly, they can like crash and burn relationships. So I would definitely say if you're in a couple and you're, coming into something like this, just be ready for change and a beautiful evolution. Because, Rachel and Aaron, not to speak for them, but they definitely said that their relationship evolved and changed in a really wonderful way when I came into the picture. And they, had a wonderful relationship for 16 years. So it is just, it's a change, and just be open and ready for that. And do your research.
Yeah.
Do your education. Yeah. Like read the books, join the groups, watch the podcasts, like everything, because that for sure is something that it can definitely take out a lot of the guesswork.
Yeah. Two things I want to comment about that. One, excellent point. Routine brings safety and security. It makes you feel so cozy and nice in your relationship. And all of a sudden, when somebody else comes in and just like disrupts all of that, you feel like your whole earth is just shattering under your feet. So yes, that's definitely something that's going to be super shocking. And the other point is, you're talking about preparing and being ready. And Josh and I were talking about that because I feel like this episode is actually more for couples looking for a person to join them. So I want to make it useful for them. Josh and I were talking today about how people are looking for a third person to join them and they're complaining about it a lot. But then I feel that they're not really interested in actually doing the work. And
they're not ready for it.
They're not ready for it. And we're there providing resources. We're interviewing all of you guys to show them this is how you do it. And then we get the same questions in our Facebook group, for example, to the questions that we have answered and you guys have answered over and over and over again. I feel like there's a lot of, oh, it's so hard, complaints, but like, I don't really want to do the work.
And as hard as it is to find that person, what happened to you find it and you screw it up because you weren't ready for it?
This is
you didn't do the work.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, and all I'm saying is like, if you're a couple who is out there, who's looking for things and you're on dating apps, because that's how I met my partners. If you're on dating apps and it says something about like, we're looking for a unicorn to, join our, like, it makes my skin crawl. It literally does. That was something I think from the very, very, very get-go, that whenever Rachel and Aaron, when I came across their profile, it was on Bumble, it was very clear. It was very specific. It was very like, and it said something along the lines of like, we are looking for someone to build a new relationship with 3 people. It was something very specific like that it was like, it was different than all of the quote unquote unicorn hunters that I've seen dozens, hundreds really at this point, that were on the dating apps. It was like, oh no, these people like actually know what they're talking about, and they want someone to join them on this journey, versus like just being like, oh, we want someone to play with, like, and oh, it's so yucky. And like, and truly, if you're saying anything like that in your dating profile, I definitely think you should do the work, do the research, do the education, like figure it out, and do it, go into it for the right reasons. And make sure that you know what the right reasons are, and you understand that, and you understand what a relationship like this takes, and be willing to put in the work. Because we've all seen it, I'm sure. And it's not great. And, that was kind of what happened in my first relationship. And it's like the yin and yang of everything when we're talking about that, of like, I feel like my first relationship in a triad or throuple was like, here's what not to do.
Learn
and
from
then
this.
now,
A cautionary tale.
right. Yeah. And now I'm like 5 years in, commitment ceremony, wife, husband, bought a house together, like the whole thing. I'm like, this is okay. Like, yeah.
We see these people on the Facebook group all the time. Like, we just had our second date with this girl, and so we're a throuple now. We're like, slow down there, Turbo. Most of us are like, we're living together. We all have the same last name. Some of us are raising children. It's like, you're on your second date. Slow down. You got a long road ahead of you.
Ari, you want to go next? What is your advice for a couple that is looking for another person to join them?
Aside from what Casey said, I would say that the only other thing that I would add to that, because generally what we would tell people, the 3 of us, is don't go looking for it. Because generally the people that are looking for it, like she said, are the ones that haven't actually done the research. They haven't actually prepared in any way, or are prepared to make any adjustments to their lifestyle. They just want to add that perfect puzzle piece of a third person that's going to meet all of their expectations off the go. So that's normally our advice, to not go looking for it. But I would say if you were to go looking, like you said, the research and just knowing exactly what it's going to mean, how many compromises you're going to have to make, all of those things, be ready to not be just a couple anymore. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be in a 3-person relationship, but it's husband and wife plus another person.
Yeah.
And that's something that, in the beginning, it was something that Fred and Sarah had to adjust their lifestyles, because, they've been married for years and years. So they did have to adjust their lifestyles to not just automatically go to each other for certain things, to make sure that they were including me. And again, we kind of accidentally ended up here because nobody was looking for that necessarily. And then once we got into that kind of a dynamic, we were like, oh, we like this. We ended up doing like all of our research after the fact, which probably isn't the best way of going about it. It can work as evidenced by our relationship, but it's not necessarily the best way to go about it, especially if the couple's already looking for that third person. So I'd say that I agree with her. Just research and making sure that whoever is looking knows what they're going to get into. And not viewing the third person, unless that's how you want to do it, but as a triad, at least, not viewing that third person as a addition to the marriage, to the relationship between everyone. And we always describe it as, like the points of a triangle, where we have, a relationship, mine with Fred, mine with Sarah, Fred and Sarah's, and then the 3 different spokes of it. So just making sure that everything is equal for us is what works.
That's good. I like it. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, similar to what Ari was just talking about, we do put a big emphasis on making sure that our individual dyads are being strengthened.
I'm sorry. We have to.
I hear you, Casey. You're
Casey.
a drunk.
Listen, it's Sunday night.
Yeah.
I'm on the East Coast.
No.
I'm so sorry.
You are a drunk. I see that you're drinking alcohol on a podcast.
I was trying to be
Cut out my
sneaky. Well, and mind you, I like texted my partners and I was like, "Can someone give me another drink?" And then they just come. See, that's the best part.
Yeah, that's
you
a
have two
support
partners
system
to
right
bring
there.
you a drink.
That's right.
Just saying.
That's right.
Just saying. Just saying. Sorry. Cheers, everybody.
He knew who to come and bring you a drink.
Yeah.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I'm sorry, Kay. I'm so
You're like, bring me a big one. This is going to be a long show.
Subtle, like drink delivery in the car.
I know. What the hell?
I need more alcohol. These people are boring.
It's not even that. I'm enjoying it, and I like love to enjoy it with the beverage.
I hear you.
All right. So
Go ahead, Kay.
to Kay, what is your advice for a couple looking for?
I was just saying, so we try to put a lot of emphasis on the individual dyads, as well as the throuple as a whole. We all have our own individual, like hobbies or interests. Like for example, me and Katie both really like to read. So we're able to kind of, like bond over that. But I think putting an emphasis on making sure that the dyads are, paired with each other and as well as the throuple, I think that's really important. And there was something else I was going to say and I totally forgot.
You can blame Casey for it.
You can absolutely blame me. I'm so sorry.
Being in a throuple, they remember stuff for me.
Yes.
That
worked.
See, drink delivery. That's what I'm saying.
Doing this, I'm going to get a can of Coke and open it.
I started a whole thing.
All right, so I have a serious question for you, Casey, if you don't mind. So what happened with the deodorant situation? Where are we at on that now?
She keeps it in a drawer.
The deodorant goes in the drawer.
Oh, she obeyed.
Yeah. I made a joke. I said she won.
Yeah, it's the little things that drive us crazy.
It is though, and it's so interesting the way that it kind of comes out. But there are things that I came into that I was like, why don't you guys do this? Like, I'm very specific when things go into the dishwasher that like the silverware needs to be sorted out in the silverware parts into their specific things so that whenever, when it's done, like you just put them in the thing. And that was something new for them. That it was like, they were like, oh, okay. Like, it's all about give and take.
Yep.
So,
for
sure.
That stuff seems very small. And I mean, in the big picture, it is, but it's also how you work through those things that really does make or break the relationship. If you're not willing to even bend on that stuff, or even that little stuff turns into this huge fight, there's no way you're going to make it through the big stuff.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
We bought the most beautiful Keen velvet bed, fit for a Keen you've ever seen. And somebody wanted to put Halloween lights all over it. And
which you call Christmas lights. I just informed them they're Halloween lights and Christmas.
The battle's ongoing.
We'll
keep you updated.
Twinkle lights on my bed. What? I'm not giving in.
I listen. I support that. We have under the I don't know what it's called, the runner of the bed. We have like lights that light up.
Nice.
So.
That's nice.
That's cool.
I'm about special lights in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So no, but Kay brought it up though, and I think that it's something that we really should talk about a little bit more. The importance of all of the dyad relationships in addition to the triad or throuple. Like, we always say like A and B, B and C, A and C, and then also ABC all together. We always say like our relationship isn't it's not one relationship, or it's not 3 relationships, it's actually 4, which is each of us together and then also our relationship as a whole. And I think that too is something, especially from a couple's perspective, when they're coming into a relationship like this, really making sure that you're prioritizing the 2-off relationships in addition to the relationship of all 3, because I think that is something that is often overlooked, especially in the very early stages. And I truly think that that's something that's the reason that my relationship worked ultimately, was because we were going on dates from the very beginning. And then once we all moved in together, it was COVID, so it was weird, but we still had like very designated date nights that we would have, that we literally still have once a week. We have a dedicated, it's on Tuesday nights normally, we have a dedicated date night for 2 people to go and do their own thing. The other person, like, we call it like a solo date night for the third person who's not involved in that date night, where we go and we like I love to like go out to we have a little casita, and I love to go out there and like play VR, and like Aaron likes to go get his food that he likes. But like, you do your own date night and then you leave the other 2 people to do their dyad date nights. It's a really good reconnection. And it makes it so that you're not always like relying on all 3 of you and all of your relationship to hold everything up. You're still like building all of the legs of the relationship and having those really strong, 2-off relationships that make up the entire throuple, that I think is absolutely crucial when it comes to these types of relationships working. I think you have to prioritize that 2-off time, or those 2-off relationships. So I wanted to call that out because I thought that was a great point.
I love that. And that's very interesting too. The solo date night, I think you called it.
Oh, yeah.
I think in a monogamous relationship, that's something that gets lost. And I think a lot of people just kind of assume that, but because I'm at work, we're at work all day, we're not seeing each other. You kind of assume like, we have our alone time. But very often, I know I was very guilty of this. Like, I was really bad at like self-care practices. So that's something that definitely has improved with this relationship dynamic. So I like that you do that, like the dedicated night, and then that person who's not out with a partner, it's time to focus on you and do something for yourself. That's awesome.
And you look forward to it.
Yeah.
Truly. Like that is like when my date night from my solo date night is coming up, but I know Rachel and Aaron have their plans. I get so excited to be like, ooh, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to, and I like things obviously that Rachel and Aaron don't like. Like, I like to do game type of things. So I have a VR set and I'm like, oh, I'm going to play through this game. And like, there are just those things that like you get excited about. And especially like 3-person relationship, 3 times the schedules, 3 times everything. Right. Sometimes it really is difficult to like try to find your alone time and find that time. And so we build it into our schedule, and it's like, and you look forward to it. Like, I think early on it was, we definitely had like the FOMO of like, oh, what are they doing? Like, they're having their date night, and then you get to the point where you're like,
right, all that goes away in
like,
time.
I'm out.
Yeah, that's one advice that I think it's valid to give to people that are just starting in a throuple relationship. All this, the FOMO and all this jealousy, it goes away in time. It gets better and better and easier. So
100%.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a long, what do you call it? A long game.
The long road.
Long, whatever.
play the long game.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely worth it, and it's worth it to put in the time. I have a question now that all 3 of you are experienced at being in a throuple. You are experienced at being in a relationship with a couple. For a single person wanting to join a couple, what would be a major red flag? Like, don't do it. Casey.
I feel like I need to divert it. I need a second to think of this one.
Okay, Ari, you have something?
I think a major red flag would probably be, if they say they're looking for like a triad type relationship, if they're saying, well, we're a triad, but I'm not going to do this with you. I'm allowed to do it with the other partner, but I'm not allowed to do it.
Yes.
Not treating the partners equally, which again, in certain types of relationships could be fine. That could be where the boundaries are for certain aspects, but I don't think that's truly a throuple or a triad if that's something where, you know, husband and wife are allowed to go on dates, but the third is only allowed to be a part of their date.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be a red flag. And I think that's probably the biggest one that I can think of.
Yeah, that's a good one
Mhm.
because this question is for people that have zero experience with dating a couple, and I hear a lot of confusion. And I hear that one is definitely something where the husband and the wife are okay to go on dates, but they cannot allow that. They don't allow individual diets to be created.
Or even, am I understanding it right? Where you're saying like, if there's anything where they're like, well, I want this to just be our thing. Like only he and I go to this place for our date night. Like, I don't want you to go with her by yourselves there. Like, is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
Kind of. Primarily, mostly just, you know, the dates aspect of it. Like, you know, you're only allowed to go on a date with the two of us. But even something as simple as,
okay.
Yeah.
like that could be a red flag in itself, because, you know, if you're really not truly open to sharing those memories with the third person as well, then you're probably not in the right mindset for the relationship.
No, that's definitely a major red flag. They're not looking for a throuple. That's definitely why people hate the unicorn term. When you're just being there for sexual fantasies, and that's it. Excellent point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and to build off of that, because I definitely think that is for sure like a thing. And it's like, it took me a second. I had to pop back to my former failed relationship of the red flags. Specifically when it's like, when someone is telling you as a single person coming into a couple and forming a new triad, that like, well, our existing relationship is always going to take the priority.
Mm-hmm.
And that something, and again, like, I understand there are boundaries, there are specific things, but if you are a single person who is coming into this and you have people telling you like, we want to create an ethical triad, we want you to be an equal part of this relationship, and then they turn around and say, yeah, but our marriage is still going to always take the priority. Massive red flag. Like, just like goodbye. And there are things that, like, I know in my last relationship, I couldn't sleep in the middle of the bed. I couldn't sit in the front seat of the car. Like, there were those things that, and I was in such like, oh, this is such a great, like, I'm so into these people, so it's fine. And their marriage is, you know, the priority, whatever. But ultimately, looking back on it, I see the absolute like red flag, and really it was a self-respect thing that, like, I just didn't, I was like, well, it's their relationship and they're established.
Right, you're trying to be respectful.
No. Yeah, like, if this is truly something that, like, people are telling you, like, we want this type of relationship, but then they're putting in boundaries that make you, and it's not, again, it's, everyone is different. Everyone has different boundaries, whatever. And it, you know, but you have to put those boundaries out in a way that, like, the third person has to be okay with it. It can't just be like, well, this is my rule.
You're not imposing it.
You can't sleep in the middle. Right. Like, and at that point, like, I had no chance of being in a successful, ethical, triad relationship with my previous partners, because no matter what, at the end of the day, it was always their relationship. And then I was like,
it was always 2+1.
Exactly.
Always.
Versus like, we're forming this new relationship with 3 people. And frankly, it's also why that relationship ended, because my ex-girlfriend at the time literally was like, well, I can't do this anymore. So she went to him, and they both were like, well, we're done. And I was like, interesting that, you know, you like told me that I was an equal part of this relationship, but then one person pulled the veto card, and because of
Yeah.
your couple's privilege, like it was devastating. So it's just like things like, and just in general for single people, safety. Always tell people where you're going. Always tell people who you're meeting, because when you think of it from a just logistical standpoint, if you are a single person going and meeting two people, no matter what, they already outnumber you. They already overpower you. I'm just saying, like, just make sure that people know where you are, meet in public places, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that in too.
With that relationship, there was veto power,
Yeah.
couples privilege, hierarchy. You hit just about every one of them.
This makes me realize how lucky I was, because I did not try to date a couple before I met Josh and Shar, and I was kind of protected by their integrity. They already did all the hard work, and I've never felt like I'm not allowed to sit in the front or any of that. They always included me, over included me in everything. And I, at the beginning, I was like, I didn't even understand what was happening. But now
I feel like I could write a book,
right,
on like what not, how to not make
right,
a triad, because I did it all. It ended very badly, and now I learned from my mistakes. So
I learned from a lot of mistakes the first time too.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Like that's why when Ari was talking earlier, it's like I misunderstood it, because that was something that I struggled with. It was like, he's dating somebody else. And it's like, well, I want to still have something that's special, that's just ours. You know, I want to, like, this is our date place or whatever. And then after that ended, like between the time that ended and we met Liv, I had done so much work to dismantle those hierarchical just mentalities that by the time we met Liv, it was just totally a non-issue.
Yeah, they made it easy for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to struggle with anything. And I didn't even know what I was getting. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, and we did talk about veto power and all that, because I naturally came to that question. You're like, no, we don't have that. We're like equal partners. I'm like, what are you even talking about? It's such a new concept. I will never forget how it felt when Josh presented it to me. It's good. Okay, tell us.
I was gonna say, so kind of going off of what you guys already said, Ness and Katie also had to go through the process of uncoupling and just figuring out how to incorporate a third person into what they already had established. So that was a process, I guess, as a third person. As a single, you kind of have to help support in that, because it's definitely not easy, I can imagine, for an already established couple to just unlearn everything they've been doing for years and years. So I guess a red flag would just be someone or a couple not willing to uncouple, and as you guys would say, you said, and also just lack of communication skills. In a throuple, there's a lot of conversations and a lot of voices being heard, and if you're not able to have mature conversations, it's just gonna fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to communicate with one another is so important.
Yeah. And not everybody knows how to do that from the beginning. It's just being willing to learn and accept that you don't know everything.
Yep, trial and error.
And also therapy. Like, like if you have poor communication, therapy.
You can learn
like
everything.
Truly, we talk about all. I'm like, everyone should be in therapy.
What's that word you keep using?
Therapy. Again, I'm married to a psychologist, so I might be biased. Right. We're all in therapy. It's good stuff.
Okay, I love that you touched on the importance of that person joining the couple to be a support to them as well, and recognizing, especially if the couple has not ever been in a relationship dynamic like this before. Like, obviously Ness and Katie had not, and Fred and Sarah had not. So having that patience with them and knowing that it's going to be all three of you working together to make this a success. Figuring out how to move together as the new unit. Team effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything that you guys would like to add that we didn't ask? Did we miss anything? Something that's important?
I don't think so. I think it covers the basics.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay. Well,
Thank you all so much
Good.
for joining
you.
us.
See?
You lost Julian somewhere along the way.
You're so
We saw him keep popping up, and he wouldn't. I think he lost his internet.
We couldn't get him back in. Well, thank you guys. This was amazing. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you guys so
Bye.
much.
All right, bye.
We
You guys-
always appreciate everything you guys do.
thank you.
Thank
Truly.
you.